Why is starting a conversation so hard? Whether it's personal or it's professional, you see someone that you want to be helping. What is stopping you from starting the conversation if there's so much good that can happen from the approach? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Active Life Podcast, the #1 podcast by fitness professionals for fitness professionals. I'm Larry Gaier, and today I am going to be interviewing my co-host Cody Ringle on how you guys can start having much more confident, much more effective conversations that are going to allow you to be helpful, not only to the people you want to help, but to yourself, to your families, to your friends, and all the people that you want to influence positively. I think you guys are going to get a lot from this. And if not just changing some beliefs for you in a powerful way, you will leave with some very clear and concrete steps that you can start using today. You know what I'm saying about? I've never snorted anything before.
Never?
Never.
Nothing.
Nothing's ever been in my nose before.
God. What's that like?
Maybe that's why I was such a boring loser.
Yeah, I'm sure that's it.
What was your what were your first rodeos?
Jesus. First rodeo is Adderall. 100%.
Whoa. Just straight to Adderall?
Yeah. Well, no. Okay, very first exposure, elementary school, snorting ravioli sauce.
This is where I want to go. All right. So ravioli, red sauce?
Yeah.
So
At school lunch, ravioli.
So are we talking 6 years old or are we talking 10 years old?
Jeez. Oh, I was in middle school.
Okay.
So I
You said
had to be
elementary, I thought.
11, 12, 13.
Okay, so you're
I
12
remember
years-
middle school cafeteria.
All right, sorry. So you're 12 years old, you're in the cafeteria, sitting with your buds. You guys have ravioli at your shitty Michigan school.
Mm-hmm.
And you or one of the other geniuses says, we should probably snort this.
No, it didn't go down like that at all. It went down like, hey, you guys want to watch me do something crazy?
So here's where we can get interested for the visuals. Do you like cut a corner off and you squeeze it out of the ravioli?
No, it's sitting in sauce, and you just take a straw.
Oh, so there's no sauce in a ravioli.
No, there's meat in a ravioli.
Listen.
It's the sauce that is just sitting in like, you remember
This is why when Jews and Italians get together, Italians say, we'll cater. We'll do the catering. So obviously,
you remember the school lunch trays?
Yeah.
Right? All little pockets.
a pool of red sauce.
Yeah, just like little line.
So you pour it out of the tray onto the table, or you do it right out of the tray?
Right out of the tray.
Do you cover a nostril? You put two,
Oh,
you
yeah.
bury your whole nose in there.
Yeah, cover a nostril.
Sniff it up the right or the left.
Oh, geez, good question. Probably the left.
Okay.
I was left-handed.
All right. No, that means that it would definitely be the right.
No, left hand, left nostril. You've clearly
held
never
your-
put anything in your fucking nose
Hold
before.
your fucking other nostril open.
You hold it closed.
That's your right hand.
Left hand, left nostril.
I understand. All right. So you snort that. How's that go?
Not well.
But everyone laughs.
No.
No one laughs.
Not really.
Just pure
It's
concern.
like, what the fuck is, why?
Got it. No points for that one, in other words.
No.
All right. So then to Adderall.
Yep, Adderall, that was like college.
What's that
Started
like?
doing Adderall. I enjoyed it a lot.
5 minutes? An hour?
No, that's a long sustain. So compared to cocaine, way better. Like if given the option, I want Adderall all the time because it's a long sustain. Like you can keep doing it. Now there's a line, I'm sure, never found it, but I'm sure there is one where diminishing returns.
Yeah.
But it just gets you up and it keeps you up. Like,
God, the idea of Adderall is so exciting to me. I'm not going to do it because I know it's going to happen, but it sounds great.
it is great. Cocaine, on the other hand, not a fan. Because the problem with cocaine is you always want more cocaine.
When I was 9, when I was officially diagnosed with ADHD and executive function disorder, before it was fucking cool, not all these lazy slobs today. I think I have ADHD. I can't focus. Shut up. So I was on Adderall for 6 months, and the teachers were like, whatever he's doing, it's really working great. He's getting all his work done. And my mom's like, yeah. And he's licking the floors.
Was that true?
Yeah.
All right.
She was like, when I came home and you were licking the floors, I knew you were done with it. It's a true story.
Why did you lick the floor?
Why are you asking me? Consult the fucking Adderall gods. I don't know. Talk to the pharmacologists who are fucking pumping our kids full of this shit.
Adderall gods.
So anyway, that's how that goes. All right, so Adderall. All right, good stuff. So snorting. I've never snorted anything. What do you want to talk about? Conversation, right?
Yeah.
Why is conversation so hard for people?
I don't think.
I love conversation.
What do you love about it?
What do you mean? It's like literally the interface of where human minds change. It's amazing.
Is this a introvert versus extrovert thing?
Maybe.
Or you can classify as introverted, extroverted? Stupid fucking question.
I identify as a raging introvert today. No. I don't know. Is that all it is? No, because
No,
introverts
it's not
like
all it is.
one-on-one. They like conversation a lot, one-on-one.
Introverts get energy from being alone. Extroverts get energy from other people.
Sure. But I've also found that on average, I guess the reason they don't mind one-on-one is because it's less draining.
Mm-hmm.
They get to just peep out of the little hole of their cocoon. Just have
If I have to, I guess I'll talk to this
one
person.
cute little conversation at a time that's nice and safe.
Yeah.
All right. So why is it so hard for people? Let's talk about even normies. I know a lot of extroverts that have a hard time, that don't like it. They're afraid of certain kinds of conversation. Why?
I mean, when were you ever taught how to have a conversation? We can go way, way back.
I don't know that I was.
I think that's a huge piece of it. We're never taught how to do this thing. We're never taught how to interact with another individual. Like, we have to find the edges, but there's no feedback loop.
Okay.
Unless you're talking like social ramifications, right? Like snorting red sauce and then people being like, that was stupid.
There's no conversation there.
No.
Except for with your now 12-year-old psychiatrist. But so the reason I want to talk about this is because I find so many people who want to do something, and doing that thing involves intimidating conversations. And I understand intimidating conversation. There are conversations that I've been afraid to have. There are conversations that I'm sure I will be intimidated to have, but I'm going to have them. And I think that there are a lot of people who literally never have the conversations that they want to have.
I don't agree with that. I think they have the conversation and they have such a negative experience with it. Like, they do it once, twice, maybe 3 times. They have such a negative experience and they ingrain that so hard that, like, I would rather avoid that.
We're saying the same thing.
Okay.
That's where they end up.
Yeah.
However they got there, it doesn't matter. That's where they are. Whether they've never taken the first rep or they've done 3 and they've scraped their face in the concrete across 2 miles, this is where they end up.
Yeah. Well, it's running away from pain. I see that, like, to me, it's a parallel conversation to exercise, to eating well, to like all of the things, because you have to make the decision that you are okay with a level of discomfort now to get better at this skill, to acquire this skill, because it's a skill. A good conversation is a skill.
I would agree with that.
I have to talk. I have to listen.
Ugh.
Ugh.
So the way I see this going is, I've thought a lot about people who have social anxiety, and I've experienced a fair amount, and I have very little now. And I've thought that it's just all survival, man.
Uh-huh.
Like, when you think about the ultimate consequence, the negative consequence of having a conversation, it actually ultimately goes to death, but we just don't know that now. And the way that it goes to death is, here's how I see it anyway. If you're socially rejected, at the most fundamental level, it means you're a social outcast.
Mm-hmm.
If you're holistically socially rejected, you're a social outcast. It means you're on your own. It now means your ability to procure and make good use of resources is diminished, which decreases your likelihood of survival, which increases your likelihood of a death that you don't want. I think that's why people who are socially anxious literally avoid conversation in the first place, because they just create this infrastructure that they know is going to be safe, and then they try not to.
So is it a biological, physiological adaptation, like over time?
I think it is. Have you ever read Tribe by Sebastian Junger?
No.
Junger. I think it's a book. If anyone today had to read 10 books, I think that should be on the list. It's short, it's sweet, it's really, really powerful. And he goes back to how we are currently wired for tribe. And by tribe, it's like an anthropological resource basically cites that we're wired to be attuned to about 100, 150 people. Well, we are not like that right now. There are some people who never tune to anyone, or were artificially attuned to potentially millions. People in Manhattan that walk down the street and maybe see thousands and thousands and thousands of people a day, none of whom they ever have a conversation with. So if we're wired for about 100 people and we're wired to depend on each other, social rejection is a major, major consequence.
Sure.
If your survival depends on 100 other people. And so the book describes why we're so drawn to those kinds of connections and the ways that we bond and the things that bring us together and the kinds of experiences that typically bond us. And I think that if you look through that lens, we are not evolved past that physically or physiologically.
No.
Certainly not psychologically or sociologically. And we're in a really weird zoo right now. And so we can create safety where it otherwise wouldn't exist. But if we can start to face the reality that the reason we're afraid of conversation is because we're actually afraid of dying from social rejection, I think it might allow us to feel like there's actually a little less risk in reality today than there otherwise might have been in the past.
I agree with that. Well, there's a piece of this that's the current evolution of technology, right? Because some people who are terrible at having conversations face to face, talking with a human being, do very, very well digitally.
Yeah.
They're going to post, they're going to comment, they're going to, like, all the dating apps.
There's a degree of separation.
Yes. Right. There's a rejection, but it's not as hard. It's not as like in your face, right? If you're on Tinder and you're throwing out a bunch of one-liners,
right? You
get one person to hook. Yeah. You're like, this is a pretty good.
Nailed it. Yeah. One fish bought.
Yes.
One angler fish bought.
Right. And the other 10 who didn't, that doesn't matter. Right. You don't think about it that way because it's not like there's no immediate consequence. Right. Yeah. It's almost like they're not real.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wonder if, okay. Do you think that people are afraid of what it means about them if they fail in conversation today? If they piss someone?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, tell me more.
It's social perception, right? Because you're not only who you say you are. You are also who other people say you are.
Yep.
Right. So if I go out on a limb to have a conversation and it doesn't go well, I am now flooded with the thoughts about what does Larry think about me? Does he think I'm an idiot? Does he think I'm an asshole?
What's he going to tell other people?
Exactly.
What are they going to start thinking about me?
Exactly.
Ooh.
The reality of that is we're not that important. Most likely, regardless of the interaction that we have, you're not going to tell anybody about it.
Yeah, no one cares about you.
No one does. No one cares about you as much as you do. And that's one of the thing that we're in right now, culturally and societally, is we're led to believe that we're the most important person in the story. I mean, we went and saw Dave Chappelle, and he talked about this.
Oh, God.
When he was like, look, some nights you're the main character of the story, and some nights you're in somebody else's story. And I think most of us walk around I do this. I know that I do. Like, it's when you're walking by the window and you look over and you look for your reflection. You're like, I'm the fucking main character of the story right now at all times. And it's just not true. But biologically, all of those things make sense how we got there. And I don't think that we've evolved to the technology. We haven't evolved to the system. We haven't evolved to the society in a way that requires success to cultivate this skill of conversation. Like, we can get by without developing this skill.
Well, I think that people developing the skill of conversation could be one of the most impactful skills that anyone gains.
100%.
Ever. And I'm curious how people who are afraid of conversation can start becoming comfortable enough to start practicing it so that they become more comfortable doing it. And I think that oftentimes a shift in the way people believe or a shift in the way that people think about the consequences of starting something scary will make it seem less risky.
I agree with that.
And so I'm wondering if there are ways that we can help people realize it's not going to be as bad as you think it might be if you start a bunch of conversations and they don't go well.
So is the easiest point of entry to help people understand simply how to start a conversation? Because I think that's where, like, we get in our head. I get in my head, like, oh, there's this person. They already know all these things. Like, everybody likes them. How do I interface with them? How do I interact with them? Look, people love to talk about themselves.
Yeah.
So to me, one of the easiest points of entry there is start by asking a question.
Yeah. Do you find that what came up for me when you described how do you start, it didn't start tactically for me. It started a little bit bigger than that. And the first place that my brain went was genuine curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
Does that resonate at all?
I can get with that. Yeah.
So I wonder if we can get curious, it might be easier for us to, well, what questions do I ask? Well, just stop for a second. Time's frozen right now, except you can take all the time that you want. What are you actually curious about in this person?
Are you curious?
Right. Right.
Right? To learn anything about this person.
If the answer is no,
Get the fuck out of there.
Why are you talking to him in
Yeah.
the first place? If you are curious, then what can you start to get curious about?
Yeah.
Hey, it's Dr. Sean here reminding you that if you are a coach who wants to fill the gap neglected by fitness and healthcare, and you want to make a career doing it, we might be able to help you. Head to the show notes. There's a link there. You're going to click that link to download the ALP curriculum. That's the stuff that we teach to coaches over the course of 13 months to turn them into world-class professionals who never have to worry about missing a paycheck again, doing work they love to do. Go ahead and check that out, and I'll see you on the other side. Let's get you back to the show.
And I think it's valuable for people to understand that when people are asked questions, and if you're not sure about this, put yourself in this position. If someone starts asking you a bunch of questions about you, about topics that are actually meaningful to you, you know what it feels like to have the spotlight. Whether you like it or you don't like it, you know what it feels like to have the spotlight. You're in a position where your whole body feels activated. Your brain is recruited in the direction of answering the question well or comprehensively. And if it's someone that you feel safe with, it's meaningful to you. You're gaining energy to talk about it. Or if you're not gaining energy, you are, what is it? There's just something that's compulsive about wanting to talk about yourself. I think for most people.
I think like you turn on. And you can see this in body language. You can see it in tone, all of the things, right? Like people start asking you genuinely interesting questions about yourself. Not like, how's the weather?
Yeah.
What do you think about today? What are you doing this
I make
week?
a catalog in my head of people who ask me those things. That's just like, never hang out with that person. Like maybe this is a good conversation I have to have right now, but never ask this person what they're doing on Saturday.
Well, I mean, that's small talk, right? Small talk versus big talk. And for people who struggle to have conversations, maybe they need to start there. They just need to start with getting in the habit of asking something.
I agree.
Right? So not to go super deep down the tactical rabbit hole.
Questions, to your point, I agree.
Yeah.
I think questions are a great place to start. I think this is true for business or personal.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter.
No. It doesn't matter if you want to make more money. It doesn't matter if you want to have more sex. It doesn't matter if you want to get somebody to give you drugs.
Or ravioli sauce. So, all right. So where do people go from here? How do they start thinking about how to approach people? Because I'm sure that there are people listening who want to be more socially successful for the personal fulfillment and who want to be more socially successful for the business fulfillment, which I think they both go back to the same place. But there are people who just want to feel better socially, and there are people who want to make more money, and conversation is a conduit for that. How do people start thinking about questions to ask?
Well, we know that you want to start by asking a question about them. Right? So it doesn't matter what the topic is. There's a prerequisite, probably.
I would say, what's the first thing you've snorted is probably not the direction for a stranger.
Man,
Depends on the environment.
Yes.
Yeah. It's fair. If I'm in a bar,
I
might feel safe asking that question.
throw that one out there. It's going to be a pattern interrupt.
It certainly is.
Nobody's opening conversations that way.
Library, maybe not so much.
Yeah, unless you see the person who's like this, jittery and kind of sitting over.
Yeah.
Like, how was that?
Right.
Curiosity, right? So it could be something as simple as like you know a little bit about this person, ideally. Right? You know a little bit about, you had some interaction with, you've seen them across the bar, you've seen them in a facility or in a business.
Okay.
Right? So you might walk up to them and you might ask them something about what you already know. Right? Like, hey, I saw that you got that drink. Is it any good? In a facility, in a business, right? One of the things that we talk to clients about is asking them, is it true, right? So you see the person who's doing this when you're coaching a class. Like, hey, it looks like your shoulder's bothering you. Is that true? And you open the conversation with that. You start to get them to talk about themselves, their experience. To me, that's an easy place to start with very little information.
I can just imagine people in a position where they're saying, well, then what? And I'm trying to figure out how you can give someone principles of a conversation instead of a blueprint. And I wonder if sometimes maybe people need a little bit of both to start. Do you know what I mean?
Well, you need a framework. For me, it's helpful to have a framework.
So what's a framework that people can start using?
Well, what we teach.
Okay.
Which would be the 6 magic questions.
Let's assume Okay. We have what are called the 6 magic questions that professionals use to start conversations that feel good to both parties, that open up opportunity for business. Maybe it is business, maybe it isn't, but it's what we found to be a very feel good way for both parties so that they don't have to feel weird doing it. Mm-hmm. What I'm curious about is how can we adapt this framework to anyone that wants to start more effective conversation? And maybe it means we have to start with what we already know and then figure out how we can adapt it.
Well, I think the question set can be the same. Mm-hmm. Regardless of what if you're coming with curiosity as the intention, right? So we're placing an intention on the thing. The intention is I'm not attached to the outcome of this conversation.
Yeah. Just learn about this person.
Yes. That implies that there's going to be some rejection. But it's the gap between expectation and outcome where people create suffering. Right? So if I go into any conversation and I have a pre-framed expectation for how this is going to go, and I don't reach that outcome, I'm going to create suffering with myself. I'm going to be angry about it, right? Or I'm going to be upset with myself, or I'm going to beat myself up. Oh, I should have said the different thing, the other thing. Whereas if I go into it with, as best as you can, zero fucking expectation for the outcome of this conversation, I go into it for the love of the game, just to have the conversation, to be genuinely curious and get to know something about the other individual. They're going to see that, they're going to feel that, and they're going to both be seen, felt, and they're going to feel important. And that's, if I'm thinking about how to create a genuine, great conversation that somebody else wants to engage with, I first have to let them feel important. I have to help them feel important. Mm-hmm. I need to ask them questions about themselves.
Why does that matter?
Because we are selfish fucking creatures. Mm-hmm. We already talked about it, right? I walk down the street and I look at all the windows because I want to see how I look. I'm trying to interpret how the rest of the world sees me. Mm-hmm. If I go into a conversation and I believe that I'm the most important person in the room, I'm going to be super fucking boring. Nobody's going to want to interact with me because I'm just the guy who likes to talk about himself. Whereas if I go and I release that expectation of how you're going to see me or how this conversation is going to go, and I just allow myself to be in the moment of the conversation, I create a more genuine connection. In my opinion, that's how you create a more genuine connection.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Agree, disagree?
I agree. Well, look, to me, it all goes back to if someone feels important, they're going to feel safe.
I like that.
Mm-hmm. So, all right. So we got to make someone feel important, which will make them feel safe, which will make them want to talk to you, because if people feel safe, they want to be around those people more. So they're going to like you. They're going to want to be around more of you if you can make them feel that way. Mm-hmm. So if we're curious about them and we want to find out the ways in which or we want to recognize the ways in which they actually are important, or something that they're dealing with is important, at the very least, they're going to want to be in conversation with us, presumably. Mm-hmm. Okay. How do we start to do this, and how do we start to see it through so that people can, instead of feeling like they can have to do anything other than have a conversation to make something work, they can start to see conversation as a tool that they're excited to get into?
I mean, maybe I don't even know that it's a tool, right? It's a way of being. It's a thing that you decide that you're going to do, right? So if we're approaching it with curiosity, right? I now become a curious type of person, right? So I'm looking for and I'm asking things that I'm genuine, because I need to be interested.
Do you think it's helpful for people to identify that way, in general?
As curious?
Yeah.
I don't see a negative outcome of that. Mm-hmm. What would be the negative of identifying as curious?
I can't find one.
Having curiosity?
Well, the only thing I can think of is that I've gotten worse letter grades in school because I asked too many questions in class.
Okay, so the institutions in which we're brought up in might actually deter us from being curious. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's something that we have to know as we step into adulthood.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you think it's helpful to just walk through the framework that we've used?
I don't see why not.
Okay, want to do that?
Sure.
All right, so how does it start?
So it starts with the "is it true?" question.
So what does this mean? You see someone, and what are we trying to find out?
You're just trying to figure out, look, you got that drink, you've got that shoulder thing, whatever it is, right? Be like, hey, is that drink any good? Mm-hmm. Do you always order that?
Yeah.
Is that your go-to? Have you tried anything else?
Some observation. Is this true for you?
Yes. Mm-hmm. You're wearing a Lions hat.
A what?
A Lions? The Detroit Lions.
What?
Michigan, Detroit Lions, sports teams.
You're talking to the wrong guy, man.
Whatever. You're wearing a jersey or a piece of apparel, something that signifies a team.
Okay.
right? So, hey, are you a Lions fan?
I see. All right. So the person says yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now what do we do?
How long?
Whole life, I guess. My pappy was a Lions fan. His pappy was a Lions fan. Now I'm a Lions fan.
Talk about being a Lions fan through the early 2000s.
Or let's not do that.
Yeah.
I actually can't find anything less interesting to talk about right now.
Well, let's see.
So anyway, yeah, forever.
Forever.
Yeah.
Wow. Have you ever been with any other team? You ever liked any other team?
Oh, in different sports, I got respect for the Buffalo, whatever the hells they are, but I would never tell my pappy that.
So we've got, is it true?
Mm-hmm.
How long?
Okay.
Right. The next question is going to be, what things have you tried?
Yeah. You ever dabble?
Yeah. You ever dabble? You ever watch soccer?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
No.
Yeah. Not the U.S. anyway.
No.
I not really feel like getting beat up every day.
How's that going for you?
Yeah. How's that going? How's what going?
How's being a diehard Lions fan?
That's good. They don't always perform as well as I want them to, but I wouldn't see it any other way.
You ever tried following any other sport? Anything interesting to you?
Yeah, I like other sports. I like hedging my frustrations across multiple teams.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got, is it true?
Mm-hmm.
How long?
Mm-hmm.
What other things have you tried?
Mm-hmm.
Did it or did it not work for you?
Mm-hmm.
Right? How's it going?
Mm-hmm.
What am I missing here?
Is this important to you?
Yeah.
Is this important to you, or is this just like if it happens, it happens?
Right. So the hat, right? If we're going with the team, is that team important to you?
Yeah. Or is it important that this team wins for you to continue to be there, whatever?
Yeah. To be a raving fan of theirs.
For the rest of life. If they lose every game going forward, you still gonna be a fan?
Yeah.
All right. And then where does it go?
The last in the 6 magic questions is the if I would you, right? So this is where you're going to start to bridge the gap between conversation and whatever the next step is, right? So, hey, if I made some time, would you want to get back here? Or if we got together next weekend, would you want to watch this game with me?
Cool.
Yeah?
Well, so I think what's really cool by the end of this is that this was a very, very low risk outcome and a very low risk conversation for both parties. The worst case scenario is a guy that you didn't know 3 minutes ago isn't interested in being someone that you are now having a relationship with. The best case scenario is all of the directions that a relationship can go.
Yeah.
To me, that seems like very low risk, very potentially high reward. The potential upside compared to the potential downside is so much bigger here.
Do you think you always felt that way, though?
No, that's why I said I've dealt with a fair amount of social anxiety. But what I think that like the case that we're making here is that if you know basic conversational tools and you can start to see yourself as a curious person that just has conversation with people, the potential upside of conversation, I don't see how it doesn't immeasurably outweigh the potential downside.
And it could be about anything, right? It doesn't have to be a
100%.
sports team. It could be it could be like a comedian,
That's it.
right?
Let's not get started. Let's just not.
So you end with the if I would you, right? If we make some plans, you want to come back here to this place and watch this game next week? Sure. All right, cool. Let's do that. And that could be like for the date that you want to get.
Yeah.
That could be for the personal
Business.
training package
Yep.
that you want to sell, right? It's a rough framework of 6 things that you can ask, right? And if you follow that line, and it might not take 3 minutes, right? If you're doing a really good job with this, it might take longer, right? Because again, you're just being genuinely curious.
Yeah. So we're finding out if an observation that we perceive is something that's actually true for them, and then asking questions about their experience in that way.
Yep.
And then finding out if I think that typically this all boils down to finding out whether or not there is a change that they would like to go through.
Sure.
I really think that all of this comes down to change. And I think that all humans are trying to identify, is there, and if so, what is the change that I would like to make to better position myself in life? And so I think that if we can start to discover where someone is, and then we can start to discover whether or not there's somewhere else they would like to be, whether we can serve that change for them or not, at the very least, you've created a connection where you understand someone, someone that now knows, likes, and trusts you more. That's never a worse position to be in.
Agreed.
And in the very best, you're the person who can directly serve the change that they want to make.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else around conversation, or you want to just go back to sniffing lines of ravioli sauce?
Wow. It's been years. I'm a changed man.
Yeah, I bet. Who helped you with that change?
That's too much.
Long line?
Long line.
There you go. All right. See you out there.
I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Active Life podcast. If you did, please head to wherever you listen and leave us that 5-star rating. It really does go a long way. 5 stars goes a long way. Please leave them. If you're interested in working with us as a coach, remember, we help coaches from around the world build fulfilling careers, working with clients they're inspired to help so they never have to worry about being able to pay your bills again. No one's ever going to ask you if you are going to get a real job when you work with Active Life. All you have to do, head into the show notes, click the link that you find there, download our curriculum. That will give you a feel for what it is going to take for you to be successful. A team member of ours will reach out to you to find out if it's a fit for us to work together. Till the next show, turn pro.